So, without a confirmed land route, the only way the United States is going to get a significant amount of troops into Iran is through its southern coastline, meaning that a large amphibious invasion is likely going to be a central feature of a war, but even this doesn't feel like a great option. Entering Iran from the coastline in the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman puts the invading forces on the opposite side of the country from Iran's capital, Tehran. A successful landing in the port city Bandar Abbas, for example, would put the invading forces more than 1,000 kilometers or more than 600 miles from the capital. And that's only once the US is able to get to the actual coastline, as Iran has numerous fortified islands that the Americans will have to contend with before even attempting to establish a beachhead. And this is largely down to the fact that Iran is aware that the coastline is the most likely invasion point for any foreign power and has been building up its defenses here specifically to counter this. The many rocky coves and inlets are ideal places for small boats to hide, and these could be a serious threat to any approaching US ships. These smaller craft are a far bigger problem than you might expect. In 2002, the US military conducted simulated war games between Blue Team, United States, and Red Team, a fictitious Persian Gulf state, which was clearly meant to portray Iran or Iraq. Obviously, at a disadvantage against the United States, the Red Team came up with some pretty ingenious tactics to win many of the simulated battles. To evade interception of their communications, they used motorcycle couriers and old-fashioned light signals, and when the Blue Team brought in the might of their navy, Red Team launched a huge barrage of cruise missiles, so many that it overwhelmed the ship's radars. Following the missiles, they launched a wave of smaller boats running hit-and-run as well as kamikaze missions. The small boats were so numerous and so close to the larger warships that they had trouble detecting and fighting them, essentially leaving them as sitting ducks. When all was said and done, the Red Team, that simulated Iran, had destroyed 16 US warships, including an aircraft carrier, in an attack that, if carried out in real life, would have killed an estimated 20,000 American service members. Red Team's underdog victory had been led by Lieutenant General Paul Riper, a Marine with years of experience from the Vietnam War and the Gulf War. Unfortunately for Paul Riper, his superiors weren't too happy with losing, and so the whole simulation was redone with a few new constraints. The location of Red Team's troops were given to the enemy. They were ordered to not shoot down any of Blue's air assets, and certain weapons were banned from the wargame. Of course, after these new rules had been added, the US went on to a crushing victory. Not really a surprise there. These exercises, known as the Millennium Challenge 2002, really showed how unprepared the US was for an asymmetric strike during an amphibious landing. Paul Riper criticized his command, saying that they had to rig the game in order to win, but he was brushed off. Now, keep in mind, this was 20 years ago, and it's unlikely that any Iranian officer would have nearly the same knowledge of the inner workings of the US military like Paul Riper and his team did. But the point still stands. Approaching Iran's beaches might be a lot harder than expected, and if they play their cards right, Iran's initial defenses could deal some serious damage before US troops have even set foot on their land.
آنچه در مورد ما میگویند